Welcome back to the latest episode of BM Talks Villa, and we're here to break down what happened at Burnley. Have just a chat about the Villa, really, because look, I've tactically decided to wait until this point to do this podcast episode because I feel like there's been a lot of head loss amongst the Villa fan base. And you know what, to a certain degree, fair enough, because it wasn't the best of displays, wasn't the best of afternoons, but I'd rather face into it on a level head. But before we do get into it, I just want to bring Cory in because he's he wasn't here for the last podcast. He was joined by True Adventures. How are you, Cory? You okay?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, Ben. How are you, mate?
Yeah, all good. So, guys, before I do get into it, just want to remind everyone we do have an ongoing giveaway for either match tickets or a shirt of your choice. And to be fair, we are getting very close to it, so don't miss out on that one. And by the time we do probably hit it, it'll most likely be next season's shirts. So if you want to win one of next season's shirts, make sure to smash that subscribe button. Right. It wasn't a good day. I think in particular there was a few performances that, and again, I don't want to jump straight down the throat of certain players, but I think I have to talk about it and talk about it openly and transparently. I think Ian Maatsen in particular was horrendous, and he continued that form from the game against Tottenham into this week. And I'll be honest, I've said it multiple times. I'm not convinced with him, and look, I'll make it clear that this isn't just an anti-Ian Maatsen piece because there's a few other players I will discuss at this point. But I just have to make a point of him. I'm not convinced at all. I don't look. He's been with us now for a few seasons. He hasn't been able to break past Luca Digne. I don't think he can defend. I think he offers us a bit going forward, but he doesn't do anywhere. He's just so suspect to like getting done. Isn't he going the other way?
Absolutely. I think the biggest problem we have as well, though, is obviously when it comes to Ian Maatsen, a lot of people going about his attacking abilities and stuff like that, and it's like, yes and no. Like, what have we actually seen from him from an attacking point of view? He's got the goal against Newcastle to show for it, and that's about it.
He got an assist in one game. I remember when he got to the byline at home.
I know what
you are right.
About, yeah.
It's sporadic, very, very.
Yeah. I mean, what Luca Digne's got more assists than him this season. I think Luca Digne's got 5 assists or something this season in the Premier League. Obviously, he's played more games.
That's what I was about to say.
But at the same time, I think it is that thing of, like, say, it's you just don't feel comfortable. Like, even player that we will get onto in terms of Tyrone Mings and people like that. But when you're playing it out to him at left back, like when we play out to Luca Digne, if he can't get past someone, he just gets rid of it. I feel like Maatsen, he does the one thing you can't do, and he turns his back on the ball. When he turns and faces his own goal.
Yeah,
I think it was first few minutes against Burnley. It might have even been the first minute. He got the ball in the corner and tried to go past Fleming. Couldn't get past him. Turned his back facing the goal face. Right. And Fleming's just took the ball off him because Fleming's 10 times stronger. He's not smart enough as a footballer. And that sounds horrible to say, but he's not smart enough as a footballer to just sort of be like, right, get rid of the danger. He always has to try and worm his way out of it. And we saw it a lot against Spurs when he was losing the ball. He tries too much on the ball.
Yeah, it's alarming, isn't it? Like, because I don't think Luca Digne has been fantastic in periods this season. If we've got 2 left backs that realistically we can't trust, and I'll be honest with you, at his age, Ian Maatsen now, you'd think this is where he should be really making that left back berth his own, especially Luca Digne's some of his performances this season, and he just hasn't. I would personally offload him in the summer if we can attract the right fee for him. Move him on and bring someone else in because, and it's mad, ain't it? Because I was really thinking that left back position was going to be sorted for a good few seasons. We wouldn't even have to look at it because there's a lot of areas in the squad where I think probably take precedence over that. But sadly, that is, if you leak goals, not that we leak loads of goals, but if you leak goals, it's an issue. You can score as much as you want, but if you're conceding, it's a big issue. So I think it is one potentially that the club are going to look at in the summer, which I think we need to talk about our left side in general, to be honest with you, because you rightfully mentioned his name. And I know you're a massive fan of him. I'm a massive fan of him. What he's done for this football club. Tyrone Mings goes down as a cult hero. If we lift this Europa League, he goes down as a club legend. I love Mings, but there has to be a point where you leave the football, as Jamie Carragher said, you leave the football before the football leaves you. And it's sad to say, but Tyrone Mings this season has been particularly poor, in my opinion. And you just see it like, look, I think I don't want to go too deep into him because I think he has played some decent performances this season. And Pau Torres isn't perfect, but
Yeah.
the drop off from Pau to him is noticeable now. I don't think last season before you've seen, look on the ball, yes, but I still don't think you've seen as that bad. But this season, it's been very very visible. Every time Mings has come in, we just don't look the same side. We look very poor. So that tells me we need to go and get a new left-sided centre back who can actually move the ball and pass the ball a little bit quicker than what Mings does. Because if he's not providing you that side of the game, we lose so much in terms of the build up. And Unai Emery is a manager that conducts himself in a way that he's so meticulous and he focuses so much on build up possession based style. And if we can't build up from the back because of him, it's a massive issue.
100%. I think as well. I think obviously I will get onto the specific Mings thing. I think it just comes into that thing of when Mings is playing at the back, the rest of the defense. I've seen people say, "Oh, the rest of the defense don't look confident with him." I think it's completely opposite. I just think the rest of the defense aren't good enough when they're playing with Mings, if that makes sense. Konza's not quick enough on the ball. So again, like you say with the Pau Torres thing, you've got two centre halves then who are too slow on the ball, which doesn't help. Matson's constantly out of position, so Mings is covering that left back role, creating a massive gap in the middle. And obviously, Matty Cash, to be fair to Matty Cash, he's got his own stuff going on the right. He does whatever. He does the same stuff every game, except for on Sunday, which we'll get onto as well. But like you say, I think it is that thing of Mings. He'll go down as a club legend if we are to lift the Europa League trophy. I think it is probably time for him to take a step back. But to be honest with you, if he wants to obviously continue playing, he'll be able to get a move. That's not a problem. It wouldn't surprise me if he sort of looks at it and says, am I at a point where I just think about maybe hanging up the boots? Obviously, that ACL injury that he got he got it when he got his first one when he was 23, 24, and then the second one was when he was 30-something years old. So it's a completely different sort of situation there, and it's not nice to see from, like you say, when you're seeing a Villa player who dragged us up through the Championship, was a top performer, and don't get me wrong, he still offers stuff that a lot of others don't. Like he won a lot of aerial duels, which is his speciality, but it's just not as strong as Pau Torres. And like you say, Pau Torres isn't perfect by any means. If anything, this has probably been one of his worst seasons, Pau Torres, but recently he's picked up his performances, and like you say, that drop off is just, it's a problem throughout the squad, but specifically in that left centre back role.
I think we've seen the level that Power can play at in that game the week against Forest. I thought he was particularly fantastic. Very strong, playing up against two mobile quick, not mobile and quick. Chris Wood isn't quick, but two different strikers in terms of Igor Jesus is very very mobile, he's quite strong, whereas Chris Wood is very very physical. And Pau Torres stood up to that challenge in the week, and personally, I think he has to play against Liverpool now this weekend, because obviously we need a result, which we'll touch on shortly. But yeah, it was just a very disappointing performance, and look, we had multiple chances through the game to score goals. It was just the big overriding feeling for me from that game is it was just complacent, very complacent, and I think the two goals that we conceded, which you obviously just mentioned about Matty Cash, which we'll talk about now. Matty Cash dwindling on the ball, and he does this every game. Like he's quite calm in possession in that sort of area, but for some reason he just had a brain fart, had the ball nicked off of him, and it was just like he usually protects the ball very very well. So I'm not going to critique Matty Cash too much, but that was shit. That was very bad. He doesn't do that very often, so it was very unlike him. He was very out of character. Emi Martinez, one right down his throat, he parries it down the middle. Like, he usually would catch that or he'd push it to the side. Like, it just seemed very out of character, and it does make me think that we either went into the game thinking that we were going to breeze them, or it was just complacency, isn't it? That's the only way you can summarise it.
Don't get me wrong, obviously I said to you, I think fair play to Burnley. The second goal, it's a nice little flip by Hannibal that sort of creates that space for Fleming. One thing I do want to touch on though is, like you say, it's not often Matty Cash does lose the ball, but obviously there's a couple of times he did it against Man United, obviously at Villa Park earlier in the season. The biggest concern for me is when we do tend to lose the ball in that area, we always concede. Like, it's not a case of,
it's high risk though, isn't it?
It is, but it isn't at the same. I mean, like the Burnley one on the weekend, for example, he's lost the ball, fair play, but there was enough filler bodies to stop that ball going in the back of the net. You've got two people who've gone with Hannibal, which has left a striker of all people free in the middle of the box. Don't like I
Yeah,
say
fair.
it's a brilliant flick by Hannibal. There's no denying that. It's a really good flick, and to get the weight of the pass for Fleming, but he's been left on his own, the
Do you know?
striker.
Do you know one bit I want to mention, and I don't know what your thoughts on it is. I think genuinely, like back to the Emmy Martinez one, his mistake. I thought Luca Dina, no Luca Dina, Ian Matson, sorry, and Tyron Mings were both sleeping because that's been pushed out basically in between them, and it's Jaden Anthony's just running straight home, and neither of them reacted to it. All they were both flat on their
Yeah,
heels.
it's such an annoying one because I understand that side of it and I completely agree. And obviously, especially at the highest level of football, you've always got to be alert to any sort of
Of course,
mistakes
you
and
have.
stuff. But I think it is that thing of like they're expecting. I mean, you look at perfect example Buendia towards the end of the game. He had the
Sorry.
exact same shot. It's all right. He had the exact same shot as the Bournemouth, sorry, the Burnley player had, and their keepers caught it with ease. Like that was the difference. I think everyone was just expecting Martinez to catch that, start on the counter, and that's the problem. I mean, he's had a few mistakes in him this season, Martinez, and I don't know. I mean, there's no real excuses for the one on Sunday. It was a simple save. There wasn't a lot of power on it. He could have, if you're going to parry it, you can parry it anywhere, but back into the middle of the box. And like you say, I do think from a perspective of Mings and Matson, they do need to be aware. Just get your body in front, so then Martinez can either gather it or you can get ahead of him. But it was just a frustrating goal to obviously it set the tone really, and then obviously you've got the offside goal, which I think there's been a lot of games this season. I think you can probably agree with me here, Ben, and there'll be a lot of Villa fans who can agree. There's a lot of games this season where, as the game's gone on, you just know we're not going to win it, and I think that was one yesterday. When I was watching it, I was just thinking to myself like, every time we're getting forward, it's nearly chances. It's
I don't
obviously a
know.
disallowed goal.
I thought yesterday we did enough to win the game. Personally, you had the Rodgers chance 3 minutes in, which we could have scored quite early, and it was just a terrible shot by him. McGinn played that lovely pass into him, but then he was like back and forth. Matson got beat way too easily. Around the 4th minute, not long after that. I can't remember who it was. I think it was that winger, that Chatu, whatever his name is. Like he was
Yeah,
literally ripping Matson to shreds. Fleming had another big miss from a Matson stinker, and then Mings made an error as well just before that, I believe, which nearly made it 2-0. So, but then after that, around the 30th minute, we had chances. Barkley had a chance. Watkins got the goal that was disallowed, which I thought was very tight, personally. And then ultimately, second half, again, we dominated for large chunks of it, and then we just couldn't get the breakthrough. We had the moment where Tielemans broke through and he should have played in Rodgers, but he said he went to Barkley, which was a terrible pass. And then the big one is the penalty shout at the end of the game. Like, I'm sorry, but I know some people have got different views on it, but he catches his foot. Yes, Buendia does put his foot out, but he feints to go one way, he's put his foot out. Kyle Walker has took the back of his boot, has ripped his sock, so his studs have definitely made contact. So that's a foul. What earth is that not a foul? I I'll put it this way: if that's a Man United, Liverpool, Arsenal, Manchester City, etc., that happens, they get that penalty. The fact that we haven't had a penalty this season is farcical in the
yeah,
Premier League. It's farcical, and that referee was it Anthony Taylor? Was it?
I think it was. Yeah,
I did see a stat on it, and our record with him as the referee is fucking horrendous. It does sometimes beg the question, like, has he got a bit of an
yeah.
agenda against us? I don't want to sound like I'm just talking, I'm shouting and screaming corruption FC in the Premier League, etc., etc. But it does make you think, doesn't it? It does question it a
Oh,
little
it
bit.
does. I think another thing to sort of talk about as well is, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this, Ben, is there a bigger picture that needs to be looked at? And I'm not saying send out all the sirens, this sort of thing, but obviously I said to you yesterday, we've taken 7 points, not 7 points, sorry. Yeah, 7 points out of a possible 12 against the bottom two this season, obviously losing at Wolves, beating them just at Villa Park and probably deserved to lose that game, if we're being honest. I think Wolves were the better team at Villa Park, and it was a great goal by Kamara. And then you've got Burnley, where obviously 2-0 at Villa Park with Marlon, comfortable game. And then yesterday, obviously, as well. But then you look back at last season, for example, the Ipswich game where they were down to 10 men for 60 minutes and we've gone and drawn that game, going a goal behind. And you look at those sort of games and just think, obviously, we need to improve the squad, we know that. But is there a bigger picture mentality-wise of the Villa players where, and I don't want to speak about mentality because obviously they've shown that they've got the mentality from the Europa League game, but is it just that thing of we need better recruitment? Do you reckon that's what it is? We need the players who can say, right, we can manage the league and Europa League better? Because obviously at the end of the day, we were in title charge talks in midway through the season, and those are the sort of moments where if you are in the sort of title race, you can't be losing those sort of games or dropping points in those sort of games.
I don't know about managing the Europa League and Premier League better, because I think up to a certain point, our results after Europa League games was pretty much perfect, and we won most of our games after the Europa League. Look, we've had a weird season, to put it very bluntly. You know, the first third of the season we were pretty shit. The middle third we were fantastic, and we were producing like title form. We were unbelievable. We've obviously then had the injuries to the three of our most integral players to the side. It's had a massive rock, and then that has had a big effect on the final third of the season. It just feels like, yes, I'll tell you the one that really I would question personally, if I was to put something on the table, is our mentality towards the end of the season. Last season we finished very strong, but the season before that, when we was ahead of Spurs, and it's exactly the same parameter this season, because we're ahead. We're not the ones doing the chasing. It seems like when we're doing the chasing and we know what needs to be done, we seem to raise our game. But when we're ahead and we've got that buffer, they kind of take they're a bit complacent with it, and they take their mind off of it. So I would question the mentality in that aspect personally. And I think you're right for bringing that up. And I do think recruitment needs questioning a little bit. And I'll be open and transparent. I think the squad is pretty poor in parts, to be honest with you. And I think, look, and it sounds really critical, because ultimately these players that we've got have got us to fifth in the Premier League with 4-point gap to sixth. They have got us to the Europa League final. So, we have to give you credit where it's due, because they've done a fantastic job to get us to this point. But I think a lot of that does go down to the management of Unai Emery and the execution of game plans. I think he deserves a massive amount of respect and praise. Like, us as Villa fans will sing his names to the high heavens, to be honest with you. He's our god, to put it very bluntly. We are massively overachieving with that squad. I had this argument with I think it was a Leeds fan the other day, and he was telling me, like, "What do you mean you've got a great squad? Your bench is brilliant." I was like, "Wow." From a Villa fan who watches them week in, week out, and sees some of these players that come off their bench, I can certainly tell you there's a fair few of them that I don't think will be at Aston Villa next season. If we go through it, tell you what, we'll pull the squad. Not that we'll be doing that. Probably do a full video on this in the future. But you know what? While we're having a quick natter about it, let's have a quick look. So if you look at the squad and you go to our forward area, Leon Bailey, you think won't be here next season. Jadon Sancho won't be here next season. Tammy, do you think there's a chance he moves on
next season?
I don't know, because that second striker is a hard one to recruit for. He may, but I think there could be, if the right person coming from, maybe they'd be open to moving him on. Harvey Elliott won't be here next season. Douglas Luiz won't be here next season. As much as I love him, and I think, periods he's been great, and I think what he did on Thursday night was fantastic. But Buendia, is there a chance that he goes? Is there a chance that Ross Barkley goes? Tyrone Mings, Ian Matson,
Luca
Digne, Lamar Bogard could be another one if the right.
Even getting into some of the starters, Morgan Rogers, for example. See with the form he's been putting up recently, would be silly not to.
We're not sitting here and saying we're selling the whole squad, but
no.
I do think there's going to be a fair amount of surgery, which we'll face into that in the summer. We're not really here to dissect the squad personally, but the reason I went through that just then is because people, ultimately the squad isn't probably where Emery wants it to be. But ultimately, we have been hamstrung by PSR rules, so it's been it has been tricky. I believe this summer we will be able to spend a little bit. Obviously, we'll have the sale of Gesson, the sale of Daniel Marlon, which will obviously recoup that money. We should be back in the Champions League, so hopefully, then if we can reduce some of the wages, we may be able to, because we're going to have to, because it's at the age profile of the squad as well. Got one of the oldest squads in the Premier League. We need to bring that down and bring in some fresh blood, because otherwise, in 2 more years, we will literally be fucked, to put it very bluntly.
Well, it's down to the recruitment side of it, isn't it? Like you say, it is that thing of, we have had time. Obviously, we've been restricted on buying players, but we have had the chance to buy players, and we've bought the wrong players. Simply put, like that, I think that's a fair way to say it. We've gone and spent a loan position on Jadon Sancho, who has been okay in parts, but it's a lot of money. That takes up probably 2 players worth. With that, obviously the Harvey Elliott deal has come about, and it's a silly deal to have done, but we did it. Tammy Abraham's another one where, to be honest with you, I would have been more than happy for Marlon to leave. I still am happy for Marlon to leave. I don't think he was ever good enough to be at Aston Villa, if I'm being honest. I think a lot of people won't like that, but that's the truth. He's very similar to Tammy in the sense of he can do things off the bench, but if Ollie Watkins was to get injured, God forbid, they're not good enough to start for Villa and do anything.
Is there a world in your brain that that's a scenario that Tammy was to get sold and Brian Maggio is going to be playing like the understudy to Ollie Watkins?
I'd like to say yes, but the issue I have is I think that was the whole reason we bought Tammy in. I think the idea would have been Tammy would have been sort of like understudy to Watkins, and then if he'd have played well and sort of broke his way into that first team like Rashford did, like Duran did, then you've got Abraham for the next 4 years, because he's only obviously 28, Tammy Abraham. So you've got him for the next 3 or 4 years, which Brian Maggio can learn off, and then Brian Maggio can take that role off Tammy Abraham. I feel like it was meant to be a passing the torch thing where it went Watkins, Tammy, Maggio. But I think now with how Tammy's performed, obviously we'll always love him for that championship thing, but this isn't the championship anymore. We're a Champions League team, so to speak. So it's one of them where your 31-year-old striker's seen that a 28-year-old striker's come in and he's gone and scored however many goals or whatever it is since being left out of the England squad. About 7 goals, is it 8 goals or something like that?
He's been in fantastic form, hasn't he? He's been brilliant.
Yeah, and it was another 2 great finishes on the week. I mean, obviously the one got ruled out, but let's not take it away from me. I know it's an open goal, but the way, with how the power of the ball came across and obviously the dip on it, he's done well to control it in. And obviously the goal that he took it really well as well.
Yeah, I think, look, people are going to be angry with because of the position we're in, and it is frustrating because we've kind of had multiple opportunities now to secure Champions League football. You look at Nottingham Forest getting that game with the Morgan Rogers miss, the Ollie Watkins miss. You've had the game against Fulham, which really we didn't get out of second gear. Then there's this game. We kind of backed ourselves into a position now where we have to play our full strength team against Liverpool, with the thought process of getting a result against Liverpool right before the Europa League final, where we could have rested a few players. That's more the annoyance for Villa fans, and I get it. I fully get it. But just for a bit of something to calm you down a little bit, Freiburg are in the exact same position. They're playing a game against, I think it's Leipzig, before the Europa League final, and they have to win that to get European football next season. So it's not just us. They're in the exact same boat as us. So let's just take that as a small win for us. Why can't we beat Liverpool at home? They've been fucking shit this season.
Ultimately, we don't have to win.
No, draw probably is enough. But
if we draw, Bournemouth and Brighton both have to win their games.
Brighton will be out of the picture. If we draw, it'll just be Bournemouth.
Well, yeah, exactly. If we draw, Brighton are out the picture, and then Bournemouth obviously have to beat Man City, which, don't get me wrong, you'd like to think Man City would beat them, but
yeah,
Bournemouth are on 16 games unbeaten at the moment, which is ridiculous. They're obviously sort of grinding through, and fair play to them. They're getting results. I think
a draw will be enough, but I think if we win, it's there and then this weekend it's confirmed and
it's cemented. Yeah.
So and then questions have to be asked whether Liverpool can get caught. That would be the next scenario, isn't it? Because they'll be on 59 points still with Brentford on the final day of the season, and Brentford will still want to get a result.
This is the situation we've put ourselves in, and I think this is what sort of worries a few Villa fans is there's no reason we can't beat Liverpool. Like let's not get it twisted. Our record against Liverpool is awful. We know that. I think the worry from Villa fans is just the fact that us and Liverpool are in the exact same boat. Liverpool have got the buffer of goal difference, to be fair. Their goal difference is obviously a lot better than ours. But at the same time, both teams are going into that game knowing a win secures it. So it's like, it could play into everyone's hands, and it's just like they play out an entertaining draw, or one team could nick it, sort of thing. It's just the nerves then of, from our perspective, listen, if we win the Europa League, nothing matters. I've seen people saying, "Oh, it's a poor season if we finish sixth and win the Europa League and this, that, and the other." It's like
No,
it's only a poor season because of where we were. It's not a poor season. We've waited 30 years for silverware, and that silverware could get us into the Champions League, and also ultimately stop a team like Chelsea getting into the Champions League when they don't deserve it.
Mate,
So,
I had this argument with someone last night, mate. He gave me serious head loss. He was telling me it still goes down as a poor season even if we win the Europa League. I'm like, are you having a bubble? If we win the Europa League, for me, it's probably our best season since winning the Champions League in 1982, the European Cup. Has to be. You're winning a European trophy. The Europa League surely outweighs the fucking Carabao Cup or the Coca-Cola Cup.
of course, I think the problem is people are putting us on this pedestal that we aren't on. Last season was a poor season for Spurs, winning the trophy but finishing 17th. That was a poor season because a team like Spurs, with the team they have, shouldn't be challenging for a trophy and finishing 17th in the Premier League. But then, obviously, we've seen this year that it's not just a fluke and they just aren't a great side. But people are putting us in that pedestal of, oh, we're part of the elites, this, that, and that. We've been through it with the squad. The squad isn't as strong as people make out. I've said it the whole season. We've played 2 or 3 good games this season, and that's the reality of it. The game, even the run we went on where we sort of won, was it 11 in a row in the league or 12 in a row in the league?
We were just grinding out results, weren't we?
Yeah, exactly.
That was all it was.
There was the Arsenal and City game where we were phenomenal. The Chelsea game, we weren't great, let's be honest, but Watkins came on and changed the game.
Oh, it was good second half.
Like you say, yeah, it was a good second half. There's only 4 games this season I can list off the top of my head from minute 1 where we were.
Yeah, but I think that's what we've been though. We've been like a period team. Like there's been
100%.
multiple games away from home specifically. I can arc back to West Ham as well, which I was at. First half we were shy, and then the second half we've kind of like triggered a switch, and it got to the point where people were even talking about it. Is that tactical from memory to conserve energy in the first half and then hit teams in the second half? We've not been fantastic like all game, as you say, probably say all season to be honest with you, but ultimately. It's a 38 game period, and you'll finish where you are. You'll finish where you deserve to on the basis of that, because it's all about consistency, isn't it? Look, I think we'll wrap it up soon because we've kind of gone over everything from the game, and I think the big piece to really end on is look, we currently sat 5th in the Premier League, 4 points clear of Bournemouth. 6 points ahead of Brighton, I believe it is. We've got Liverpool at home, which is an opportunity now to go and win the game and send off Villa Park on a high note, confirming Champions League football. Just to think of the how that would feel for the players getting the job done against Liverpool, winning against them, the euphoria around Villa Park, and then the announcement: we have confirmed Champions League football for next season. Everybody leaves on a high, go into the Europa League final. Everyone's happy. That's momentum. And surely that carries on into the Champions League final. I fucking wish Europa League final, should I say? That's my view on it. I don't know if that kind of, am I thinking too far out the box there, or is that?
No, not at all. At the end of the day, we win on Friday with guaranteed top 5 minimum. That's it. We've guaranteed Champions League football. We've also guaranteed top 5 minimum. And to be honest with you, Bournemouth and Brighton are going to be licking their lips at the idea of us winning on Friday. They'll want us to win. Because obviously if we do win and then go win the Europa League, one of them two gets Champions League football, whoever finishes 6th. So, ultimately, like you say, we go into that game, we have to play a strong team. This is where we really need Unai Emery to step and say, I am an elite manager, I'm not going to take any risks. And because I think that's one of the most annoying things is it's not worked for a while, this Mings and Maatsen thing, and it keeps persisting. Each week, every team that comes out. Me and you, I mean, you're probably more optimistic than I am a lot of the time. I think that's fair to say. But even I think me and you have had a few messages before each of the games recently, being like, "What is that team? What's he doing? What's going on?"
Yeah,
sort of thing. And I think ultimately everyone on Friday night just wants to see a full strength team out, a team that's going there to win against Liverpool at home, as you say, last home game of the season,
we have
under the
to.
lights at Villa Park, a nighttime game, circa John Duran from 2 years ago with the 3-3 game at Liverpool, which guaranteed us Champions League if we're from being 4 points ahead. So why not?
Yeah, well, just a side note, and this is completely not about the football. I've just noticed, your cap's really white and the background's quite white. It looks like your head's kind of like blended into the wall, so it looks. I don't know if anyone else noticed that. I just noticed it. It looked like literally like it's cut off there, so it looks like you've got like I don't know, like a green screen around there. Right, we'll wrap it up there. I think we've had a good chat about the Villa. Look, it's not over. We're still in the Europa League final. We're still in the race for Champions League football. It's time to relax. Trust the boys. Trust Unai Emery. Final one from me and Cory, as always. Up the Villa.
The Villa.